Welcome back to the weight room. Thanks for joining for another episode. It's going to be a great episode. We have a podcast host of another fitness podcast coming on, joining today. So it's going to be great. Talk about that podcast, talk about obviously some health and fitness. And it's going to be great. So stay tuned and enjoy the episode. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me on.
If you just want to introduce yourself, a little bit about you. We'll talk certainly about your podcast, but just a little bit about you.
Okay, so my name is Max Hall. I've been a personal trainer for about 6 years now. I do a combination of in-person and online training, and I run a podcast called the Plus Ultra Fitness Podcast. I'm a huge mental health advocate. My mental health is something that I've struggled with for a majority of my life, and health and fitness has kind of been the catalyst that's helped me overcome a lot of those mental health challenges. And my goal and passion and drive in fitness is to help more people become the best versions of themselves and really overcome some of those mental health issues and learn to love themselves and accept themselves through fitness.
That's a big point that a lot of people that aren't really into the whole fitness thing, they don't understand the mental side of it, I don't think.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big problem we have as the fitness industry right now is the general population still sees the gym as, people trying to be bodybuilders, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, the gym bros, the people that go blast arms on Friday night, and they don't see all the people that show up to the gym day in, day out, both those people as well as many other people that just come for their mental health. They come for that endorphin release, and, the gym is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So, it's a place for people to socialize and get to know each other. It's a place for people to battle their mental health. It's a place for people to overcome addiction. There's so many positives of the fitness industry. And shout out to my mentor, Andrew Coates. He is, if you haven't followed him, go give him a follow. He is an amazing individual, but he's talking about this a lot right now about, the reason gyms are still shut down in some places is kind of the gym's fault in the way of they have a PR issue. Of they haven't been able to convey this message of what the gym means to so many people, to, the general population. And then for myself, I can totally relate. Like I struggled with that for a long time as I worked out with these kind of unrealistic expectations of myself. And I worked out to kind of meet society's standards of myself instead of working out for myself. And I think that's what a lot of people do is they work out to, look better for somebody else or to look how they think society wants them to look. They don't work out for their own joy and love of it. So advice I give people is find something you're passionate about, whether that be powerlifting, bodybuilding, rock climbing, CrossFit, whatever. Find hiking, find a level of fitness, find a fitness passion, something that gets you up and gets you moving, but something that you thoroughly enjoy and that you're doing for yourself, and then push that thing as far as you can take it. And when you take that thing and you see how good you can get at it, you see how much you can love and enjoy it, the body stuff will happen on its own. You will get a better physique, you will get healthier, you will have less risk of disease. But, the focus should be removed from those things and put on to, finding your love and passion and pursuing that and letting the other things come as a result. And that's not to say that you can't have a little bit of a focus on getting healthy. Like there is that element of, if you're older and you want to be around longer for your kids or your grandkids, maybe that is your passion. Maybe that is your motivation for fitness, but we all have our own motivations, but we need to really search inside ourselves and find what is my motivation, not as what society's motivation for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. So you talked about finding something to do, powerlifting, CrossFit, whatever it might be. What does that look like for you?
So for me, it kind of changes from time to time, but the majority of the time it is powerlifting. I am a competitive powerlifter. I went to Worlds in 2019 for a small federation called 100% Raw, which is a drug-free raw powerlifting federation. So that was a lot of fun, and that's where the majority of my time is spent. However, from time to time, I will take mental breaks from powerlifting, and I will do things like kickboxing or some other type of sport like rec basketball or rec volleyball. And I'll actually structure my training towards training for those things rather than powerlifting and take a little bit of a mental and a physical break. And then I'll return to powerlifting when, it comes time for me to prepare for some type of meet.
When did you get into the powerlifting side of things?
Yeah, so I've been powerlifting since I want to say 2016 or 2017. I did my first meet and it went really, really awful, actually. I almost bombed out. I went into the meet, and the coach that I had at the time hadn't exactly explained the rules to me. So I was learning the rules on the day, and I came to realize that, powerlifting was a lot more than just squat, benching, and deadlifting. That for meets, there's some rules to follow. Like, you have to follow commands. You cannot rack a squat before they give you a rack command. You cannot rack a bench before they give you the rack command. You cannot put the deadlift down until they give you the down command. So there's a little bit more technicality into it. So I almost ended up, bombing out completely on that first meet. But I did end up, succeeding. But the whole experience was actually kind of awful for me. So I decided I don't know if I want to do this anymore. So I went back to playing rec football. I had been a football player for many years up to that point in time. And I went to playing some men's league football for 2 years. And then after that, I met who was my coach for Worlds, Darrell Pettis. And he kind of helped me get back into it. He introduced me into a powerlifting team, which, I'd always assumed that powerlifting was more of a individual sport where you have to be very self-motivated. And that's kind of where I'm at now. But at the time, I was introduced into this team when team training was still a thing before COVID. And it was really cool because I was able to push myself to limits that I weren't even thought possible for myself because there's so many people surrounding me, cheering me on a weekly, daily basis in every single training session. And that just really helped me elevate myself beyond. So the effective training partners is absolutely massive in, helping you discover what's actually possible for yourself. Like, we can talk about training intensity until the cows go home of you need to train this intense to get results. But when you can train even intenser just by surrounding yourself with people, it really elevates your results. So that was 2018. I did my second meet. My second meet went much better. It was my third meet. I did one in between, but it was kind of a last minute meet. But I did my third meet and what I consider to be my first official meet within competing. And then after that, I did a fourth, and then a fourth and a fifth. And then in the fifth meet, I ended up getting my 400 Wilks, winning the Best Deadlift Award and qualifying myself for Worlds. Then I competed in Worlds in 2019. And I haven't competed since because every meet that I've been registered since then has been canceled due to quarantine restrictions.
Pretty impressive. What do you hope to achieve with powerlifting?
I want to take it as far as I can, and that kind of circles back into the mental health thing. It is a passion of mine, and I think we can find some of our best mental health. We can really become our own biggest fans when we take a look and we find something we're really passionate about, and we say, I want to take this as far as I can possibly take it. So for me, I'm not really sure where the cap is, or even if there is a cap, but I know that I would be dishonoring myself if I didn't take a look at powerlifting and say, how far can I possibly take this? What's the best that I can possibly do for me? So really my goal is to keep improving. And I made, the 100% raw Worlds, but like I said, it is a smaller federation. It is drug-free, but I think the big federation is the IPF that's also drug-free. And I think my goal is to eventually make at least nationals or Worlds for the IPF. So once, we get some semblance of normal and meets start running again, getting back into competing, putting some numbers on the board and continuing to improve is pretty much my biggest goal, and really just to have that trust in myself that I will take it as far as I can possibly take it.
Looking back in your life, at what point did you start getting into not just the world of fitness, but also, sports and things like that?
So I've played sports pretty much my entire life. Since the time I was about 4 or 5 years old, I played soccer and I did taekwondo for 7 and 8 years respectively until I started trying out some other sports. I did volleyball for 1 year, baseball for 2 years, track and field for 1 year, uh, basketball for 4 years, rugby for 1 year, but my main sport and the sport that I was most passionate about growing up was football. So I started that in grade 9 of high school. I played 1 year of bantam and then I played 3 years of high school football. And that was the first sport that I kind of fell in love with. I had played all those other sports and I enjoyed them, but they were never really my thing. I was always kind of more of a video game nerd. I preferred being at home, playing video games, watching anime. I was kind of that nerdy, weird kid. So I played these sports, but even like growing up in soccer, I was the kid on the field picking the grass, and I wasn't super competitive. I wasn't super into it. It's just something that I kind of did. And then football is kind of the first thing I found passionate, where I'm not sure what clicked in my head that I'm like, oh, like I could be good at this, and I want to see how far I can take this. And I started putting every ounce and every little bit of effort that I could into getting better. And with that, I started working out in grade 9 of high school too, because I was very skinny. I was about 5'3" at the time and 100 pounds soaking wet. I had grown to 5'6" by grade 10, but I was still probably only about 110, 120 pounds. But my goal every year was to get bigger in the off season for football and to work out and put on some muscle, put on some weight, and that's when I kind of started falling in love with working out and with getting stronger. So, I was hitting the high school gym as much as I could to try to put on that muscle mass and get better for football. And then coming into, I guess, grade 10, going into grade 11 of football, I decided that like football was my passion in life and I wanted to see how far I could take my passion. I wanted to put every ounce and every little bit of effort I could into making, college or university football. And I'd come to the realization that, I wasn't skilled enough to just be discovered. I wasn't on any rankings, but there were still lots of teams that needed me and lots of teams I could strive on. So in order to make a team, I needed to present myself to those teams. So I had all my film, I had my highlight tape, and I started sending recruiting forms and recruiting emails to about 500 different schools across the United States until I found, probably about 10, 15 of them that reached back out to me and about 3 that I had offers to play at. And I ended up playing at a Division III NCAA school called the College of St. Scholastica for 2 years in Duluth, Minnesota. And then during that time, I really liked football and I still really liked working out. I still really liked the gym. I still really liked exercising and fitness. So at first I was like, well, what do I want to do with my life? I'm like, I want to be a gym owner. So I registered for school in business management. And then a good friend of mine, Aaron Toady, he said to me, he's like, hey, Max, he's like, okay, well, you want to be a gym owner. That's a great goal in life. But if people are going to come to your gym, you have to look at it one of 2 ways. You can be a really good businessman, but have no good service to offer them. Or you can be the best that you can possibly be at your service, and then you can, learn the business side to bring people in later down the road. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I decided to switch to exercise physiology, and my goal became to be a strength and conditioning coach. So I was helping the other football players on the team I was kind of taken on as like an intern strength coach. So I was asked to show up for lifts other than my lifts and help teach form and help teach all of the new incoming athletes how to get into position for front squats and just small stuff like that. And I really fell in love with coaching and helping people out. I wanted to, go on to be a high level strength and conditioning coach for like an NFL football team or an NBA basketball team or something really cool like that. So I started applying for internships, and then life kind of threw a little bit of a curveball at me. That's not the direction I ended up going, but I can go into a little bit of detail about that if you want.
Yeah, sure. Before we do that, though, before we go into that, I'm curious about
Yeah.
what positions you played in football. So I'm a football fan myself. I was just curious.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I played cornerback and safety. I kind of hybrided between the two. I was more of a press corner. I was very like feisty and I guess aggressive. So when I would play corner, it was more of a press corner type of position and more of a cover three a lot of times as well. I did strive really well at man on man as well, though. I like that lockdown position. But I primarily played safety because I really liked coming down and making hits. I liked the angle of having that kind of like pure lane into tackles a lot better. And I liked the coverage that I played and, just lighting up receivers coming across the middle as they came.
Gotcha, gotcha. Going back to that curveball.
This is kind of where the mental health side comes in. So at the time, I ended up getting in a really abusive relationship. I lost 35 pounds of muscle, and I ended up kind of losing my ability to stay at school and ended up having to drop out of school. And at the time, it felt like a really big shock to my life. Like I was losing all of my dreams, and I wasn't sure what to do with my life. So I moved back home with my parents. I laid in bed for like I don't know, at least a week straight, not wanting to move. And that's when a friend of mine came and physically dragged me out of bed. He's like, "You're coming to the gym with me. We're gonna go work out." And it was crazy because I hadn't worked out in about 6+ months at this point in time. I had lost all this weight. I had lost all this strength. So I went from squatting, somewhere in the 335 pound range in college to we put the 45 pound bar on my back and I crumpled underneath it like an accordion. So that was quite the funny experience. But I kept at it. I kept working out, and what I realized is that um, working out made me feel better. I had always kind of dealt with this depression. I had always dealt with anxiety, and I'd always struggled with my mental health my whole life. But at this point in time, I was in the least control of it that I'd ever been in. And working out and exercise and fitness helped me take a lot of that control back. And then when I thought back on my life, I really did, start working out for sports, but I fell in love with the actual process of working out more than I fell in love with the sports because of what it allowed me to do with my mental health, the control it allowed me to have over my mental health, and how it allowed me to achieve all these amazing, amazing things with football because of my work ethic and my ability to pour that heart and soul into myself through working out. So with this realization, I decided that, I had these skills in coaching, exercise, and movement through, practicing during my time in college. I had this passion for coaching. I had this passion for helping people with mental health through exercise because it helped me so much with my mental health. So I decided to become a trainer and help other people with their physical health, their mental health, and whatever somebody needs. Like if somebody is an older individual and it's going to help their mental health to get their movement independence back, bam, I'm there. If somebody needs to lift heavy to feel strong and take control of their life, bang, I could help them with powerlifting. So whatever somebody needed is what I wanted to be. So I really dove into educating myself as much as possible so I could help the widest variety of people possible because that was my new passion and my new kind of vice is like, I want to help as many people with their mental health as possible through exercise and fitness. Exercise and fitness has given me so much and with helping me with my mental health, with helping me take control of my life in the darkest times of my life, that I want to be able to give back and I want to be able to help other people in the same way that it's helped me.
That's a big part of a trainer is to have that personal relationship.
I always tell people, don't be afraid to put the personal in personal training. If you're attempting to develop a relationship that involves a two-way trust between you and your client, they're not going to develop that trust unless you invest that energy into them. As far as not hurting them, that's also part of the trust process. Is they are trusting you that you have the skills to not injure them, and you're not going to make them do anything dangerous. So I think there's a huge obligation for trainers to really put that time and effort into educating themselves enough to become very, very familiar with the basics, really good at coaching the basics, and really good at understanding program design to not hurt people. Like if you're taking on a 73-year-old lady, they don't need to be doing hit training jumps. Like you're just going to injure them. You're going to hurt them. Like you need to really understand who your client is and what they need and the best way to help them. So there's always that element of not wanting to hurt them and wanting to do the best by them, both in the short term, but also in the long term as well. There's a lot of extremist trainers that put people on these extreme diets, and that can really harm the client's relationship with food in the long term. You really have to be cognizant of helping that person with their relationship with food. And, there's a lot to consider. I don't want to harp on anybody's training practice. I think everybody has their own way of doing things. But I think the best thing we can be as a trainer is A, be flexible, and B, be willing to help that person through asking them what they want. A lot of times people will have their own ideas of what the solution is to their problem. And if you don't honor that, if you don't let them pursue out their idea of what the solution is, then they're not going to have that trust with you that if that solution fails, to be willing to take your advice on what a better solution might be. So an example I give people all the time is keto. I think, there's some trainers that like it, but I think the majority of the people in the science-based community say like, well, keto just isn't sustainable and isn't easy to adhere to for the majority of people. For some it is, but for the majority of people it's not. So you have a client that comes to you and says, hey, I'm starting keto today. And if you react really badly and you just put them down for this thing that they thought was a really good idea, you are going to break that trust barrier with them, and they're not going to want to be able to reach out to you for help and support when keto fails. They're going to feel embarrassed about it, right? So the best thing you can do as a trainer is be supportive of that, even if you know it's not the right idea, and then be there if keto fails, for example, to be there to be like, hey, it's okay. A lot of people fail with keto, but that's not the end of the world because a lot of people still lose weight and still reach their goals using other methods. Some people succeed in keto, but that just wasn't for you. Here's another strategy I would like you to try that I think is going to be better suited for you. But that conversation can't happen if you put that person down and, shit on their ideas of trying keto.
Putting not the responsibility, but the freedom, I guess, is a good way to put it. Putting the freedom in their hands to say, to at least offer, what do you want to do? Tell me what you want. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you want to achieve. If you have any ideas, let's talk about those first. If you let them tell you what they want, you don't have to guess. You don't have to, you don't have to trial and error it. You might get one chance with somebody. You might not get a second chance. So you definitely want it to be the best experience possible.
Absolutely. And building that trust, right? Like you have to remember that people are being fed with so much information these days with social media that there's so many sources of information coming at them. So, maybe somebody's been told by 5 different people that carbs are bad and carbs are going to make them fat. And if you're at the start of that coaching relationship with that client and you tell them that carbs aren't bad and carbs aren't going to make them fat, they might not have that trust built up in you to be able to hear that from you and to be able to be like, oh yeah, I guess carbs aren't bad. I've been lied to, right? But at the same time, if you develop that trust with them over the course of a couple months and you show them your ability to get them results, you show them your ability to be flexible, you show them your ability to work with them, after a few months when they're like, well, if I eat carbs, won't it make me fat? And you're like, no, that's not a real thing. And then you explain energy balance to them, they're going to be able to better receive it because now you've built that trust with them and you're going to be able to restore and repair some of these relationships with food or exercise or whatever the problem is. Like just, take this example and apply it to X, Y, or Z problem. But whatever the problem is, you're going to be able to repair that person's relationship with that problem and find the solution that works best for them by building trust with them. And that comes from putting the personal in personal training. And if you're just a personal training robot that never allows yourself to be vulnerable with that client and share parts of yourself with them and be a place where they can come with you for complex and hard issues and to talk to, like we're not counselors. We can't help people with their mental health issues, but we can always listen. If you're a place where your client feels trusting enough to listen to their issues and what's going on in their life and care, then they're also going to have the trust in you to help them solve these issues and let you do your job to help them get from where they are to where they want to be and help them create a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I think something important you brought up too was kind of the educational side of things.
And understanding how to verbalize that as well. Like you don't need to verbally have diarrhea on the person and explain every little facet of everything, but understanding what the problem is and how to put it in real life, understandable, digestible terms for, how to make that person understand that is just an amazing skill to have. And for trainers that want to learn how to do that, I always say the best way to do it is creating content. Get on Instagram and put out Instagram posts of, providing people with free education. And you'll see that your business grows from this as well, but it's a good way to practice how to verbalize putting the terms that you think are important out to the world in a way that's digestible. Because if you start making things too complicated and too crazy, nobody's going to see it, nobody's going to share it, nobody's going to get anything from it. But once you start taking the things that are important to you about mental health and fitness and nutrition and all these different things you want to put out to the world, and you start learning how to communicate those to a way that makes sense to the general public, that will translate out to skills that you can also verbalize that to the clients you're coaching, and you'll be able to help them. And sometimes it's kind of a funny effect because a lot of your clients follow you on social media and they have these preconceived notions. And if you were just to tell them this thing outright, they wouldn't receive it very well because they kind of feel personally singled out or attacked in a way. But you put that same concept on social media, you put it out as a social media post, they see it, they digest it, and then they bring it to you and they're like, hey, can you tell me more? Can you expand on this? Can you tell me how it applies to me? So it's not that, you're giving away your information for free. You're only helping enhance your coaching client. And the clients that you're going to get because they've seen your, content and your education for years and years and years are just going to be phenomenal clients because they already have that trust built in you. They've been following you for months, years, and they see everything you put out and they like it. So they trust you already. So you don't have to build up that trust as much because they've taken the time to build that in you before you've even started. So social media and content creation is such a powerful tool for any trainer, no matter what setting you're in.
Social media has the power to, like you said, build that relationship and that trust before you ever meet with somebody, whether that be in person or virtually, whatever. So let's talk about your podcast. You have quite an interesting duo of topics with anime and with fitness. What kind of brought that on? What kind of made you want to throw those together like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, growing up, I've always been a massive, massive weeb. Like, I love video games. I don't play them as much anymore just because I don't have a whole lot of time for them. But when I do play them, I enjoy them. And I love, love, love anime. It's one of my favorite things to be doing in my free time is watching anime. And there's a lot of parallels between anime and fitness and anime and life and a lot of lessons that can be learned. Now, there's also this large community of people that love anime, that love superheroes, that love everything nerdy and weeby, and then they also love fitness. And some take it as far as, cosplaying their favorite characters and working out to achieve the goal of looking more like their cosplay character or to embody the spirit of whoever they're cosplaying. Some people buy workout clothes that look exactly like the anime characters that they love. They dress up like these anime characters and go work out and embody that character, and they draw motivation and inspiration from that, and that helps them push themselves further in their workouts. So it's this whole niche of people that love anime and love fitness, and I saw this huge demand for education within the space. There's a lot of amazing trainers within the space, but there wasn't really much as far as somebody who is really involved in that space, taking it a step further to put out something that helps people within that space become better educated about exercise and fitness, and does it in an entertaining way that appeals to the audience, and lets them become very involved in it because of their passion for both anime and fitness. And there's a lot of people in this space that are struggling and need trainers, they need education, they need all these things. So I think somewhere along the lines of this podcast, I've mentioned that my goal in life is to help as many people with their mental health through fitness as possible. That is my mission. And there's going to be a lot of people that I want to help that just can't afford me. But that, to me, that doesn't mean that I can't help them. And I help them through putting out content. Now, there's social media content, which is great because you can give people snippets of anywhere from 15 seconds to a couple minutes of information, and people can easily digest that. But a lot of times that's not enough. So by circling people from, the Instagram, the Facebook, the short forms of education, and putting them into a longer form of education where I can go into more depth about some different fitness type topics and help people become better educated and better armed with tools to take control of their life and take control of their mental health through fitness. That's really my passion, to put out that content. So I found this space, I found this ocean of people that desired this information, and I basically just started creating it in a way that made sense, displayed me as a person, and just really was me. Like, I like anime, I like fitness, I'm really easily able to draw the parallels between the two, take lessons from anime and apply it to fitness, take different fitness topics and say, like, how real is this in the terms of anime for people watching? Because, like I said, we draw a lot of motivation from our favorite characters. Like, a lot of kids of my generation, hitting between that age of 20 to 30, even 35 at this point in time, grew up watching Dragon Ball Z and idolizing Goku and wanting to go Super Saiyan and wanting to look like Goku or Vegeta or look like one of these anime characters who are just drawn with insane body dynamics. So, part of it is saying, like, how realistic is this? What parts of this are good? What parts can we take? And what parts should we maybe just realize are fictional and enjoy them in the context of anime, but not necessarily adopt that into our own fitness because it's going to be more harmful than it is good, like some more of the extreme mindsets, and be able to really tie those lessons from anime into people's fitness and just put out really, really good fitness and anime information in a really entertaining, easy to digest way for people within that space.
Yeah, that's a really cool duo for sure. I know it probably captures a very interesting audience from both angles, just to maybe even like draw more people in that are into anime into fitness, and then vice versa. Fitness into anime. That just kind of building the community and bringing two communities together like that is really cool.
There's definitely a few other YouTube channels doing it, and there's a few other podcasts doing it. But I think I do a really good job of putting out a lot of information that appeals to a lot of different people. And like you said, like the fitness episodes that are coming out every Monday, the people that digest those don't necessarily have to be into anime. There's a little bit of anime stuff in there, but you can digest those episodes pretty easily without being a huge anime fan. And maybe that'll entice you to like anime a little bit more. And then vice versa, on the other side of things, with the character analysis videos every Saturday, those episodes are more focused on the anime side of things, and there's life and fitness lessons we pull out of it. But you do not by any means have to be working out to enjoy and get entertainment out of those episodes, and to just, say, oh, that's my favorite character. Go listen to that episode and, hear mine and my co-host Tiffany's different views on that character and what that means for that character. So that's, something that's really neat as well. And then they kind of meet in the middle with the interviews. Is I bring on different people in the anime community, the fitness community, and specifically the anime fitness community. And, it's kind of more of a 50-50. It's like, okay, well, you get a little bit of anime and you get a little bit of fitness. So that's something that both sides can enjoy. And like I said, my hope with it is to, people that like working out, that listen to the podcast that aren't into anime, maybe they'll get a little bit more into anime. Or if you're into anime and maybe you want to start your fitness journey, but you're just not sure where to start, maybe that's a good tool for you to take in some information that's a little bit more digestible on something you really like with anime, and slowly work your way towards taking on more fitness information to help you get motivated, inspired, and educated to start your fitness journey.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Funny story, because I love pretty much everything nerdy. The meet that I qualified for Worlds and won the Best Deadlifter Award, one of my huge motivations to win that award is it was a Star Wars themed meet. They called the meet Bar Wars, and the prize for Best Lifter, Best Deadlift, Best Squat, and Best Bench were actually really expensive, really fancy lightsabers. So I am now the proud owner of a Darth Vader lightsaber in my room because I won it for Best Deadlift Award in my 5th meet.
Wow, that's really cool. I had no idea that kind of thing existed, but I'll definitely have to look into that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting back to your own personal, non-podcasting side of things, so what do you, in the near future, in 2021, what do you have set for this year as far as like goals, as far as something that you want to achieve?
So on the fitness side of things, I've set myself powerlifting goals. So this year I want to squat 500 pounds, and the most I've squatted before is 450 pounds. So that one's going to be a little bit of a lofty goal, but I feel like it's achievable. I'm going to keep working at it. I would like to bench 315 pounds, hit the big 3-plate benchmark, and I think that one's pretty doable. I've been kind of set back through shoulder injuries for the last few years for benching, but this is kind of one of the first times in my life that my shoulders feel really, really good, and my bench is progressing really, really well because of it. So the most I benched to this point is 260 pounds, so hitting that 315 mark will be huge for me. And then finally, I would like to deadlift 600 pounds. My best deadlift so far is 530. Deadlift is something I've always excelled at really, really quick. I have super long arms and I just love deadlifting. So I know that that's definitely an achievable goal for myself. I compete at 148 pounds. So I'm not sure if I'll hit those goals within the confines of the competition, just depending on how things go this year. And if I do it within a competition, I'm not sure if I'll cut down to my competitive weight of 148 pounds for the first meet I'm back at least, or if I'll hit those goals at that. But definitely within some point in time, I want to hit those goals for the year. And hopefully if, quarantine allows, I would like to compete in at least one powerlifting meet this year, and maybe see if I can set myself up for some qualifications for 2022 of, hitting some things like Canadian Nationals and Worlds. From the personal training side of things, I've had a developed well client base for quite a while now, but I would like to keep helping the people that I help. And I would really like to build the online side of my business and, get more online and Zoom clients, and help more people in person as well. Right now where I live, the gyms are shut down. So it's kind of a weird transition of like, yes, I like helping people in person and I would love to have more in-person clients, but my focus right now is online and Zoom, just because where I am, the area I'm in, that's just what I'm allowed to do. So it makes sense for me to put more focus into the areas where I can excel in a little bit easier and a little bit better because of the confines of the quarantine. And then outside of that, like I said, my goal is to help as many people with their mental health through exercise as possible. And part of doing that for me is growing a social media following. So I obviously want to grow up the podcast and grow up the listeners of the podcast. Those are some different separate goals that I have for that. But as for my personal branding as personal trainer of Max Hall Fitness, I would like to grow my social media following to 5,000 followers. That will slightly over double the amount of people following me, and in turn, double the amount of people that I'm helping educate, inspire, and motivate towards having a better, healthier lifestyle.
Good luck with all that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And would you have any last words, any maybe words of wisdom or anything like that you would like to share?
The biggest thing I would say is no matter who you are, whether you're in your fitness journey, consistency. If you're a trainer trying to grow your business, consistency. Like Daniel said, consistency is key. If you want to grow your social media, post consistently. If you want to, grow the amount of clients you have, consistently show up and be an amazing trainer for your sessions with people because they will refer you to your business. If you want to build a really strong squat consistently, squat hard, put in the work. If you want to get fitter, if you want to be better at rock climbing, if you want to be better at hiking, whatever it is, commit to it, be consistent with it, and it'll be amazing what you can do for your mental health through that.
Awesome. Really appreciate it. If you just want to let people know where they can find you, where they can find the podcast, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So for my personal Max Hall Fitness, I am on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all is Max Hall Fitness. So feel free to look me up there. Shoot me a message. I love to have conversations with anybody and everybody. So, I'm always open and available. So hit me up. As far as the podcast, you can find the podcast Instagram and TikTok as the Plus Ultra Fitness Podcast. And it is available for viewing on YouTube and Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play. So, feel free to tune into any of those services and give the podcast a view. Help me grow the podcast. I really appreciate it. You guys, make sure to give Daniel a 5-star review too. Help him grow his podcast. This is amazing what he's doing, outlining fitness professionals like myself and many of the other guests that have come on. Help him grow his podcast and help him get this awesome information out to more people. He can organically grow if you guys just shoot him a 5-star review. I know he'll really appreciate it, and I really appreciate it too.
Wow, really appreciate the weight room shout out on the on your podcast shout out as well. So yeah, same thing though. I mean, it's all about the organic growth and just getting more people involved. Each episode, I think my goal is to just attract one new person. If I can get one new person to listen, that person get some value, they tell somebody else, and then it just builds from there. So yeah, I'll definitely be giving your podcast more listens over time as you release episodes, and I'm looking forward to those 3 days a week.
I appreciate that. I look forward to listening to more episodes of your podcast as well. And something I tell all my viewers, so if you're listening to this and you're a viewer of Daniel's, I say, if you really enjoy this podcast, I only ask one thing, that you take it and you send it to one friend that you think would also really enjoy it, because that is one of the best ways to organically grow a podcast or anything, is just share it with one friend. So if you guys want to be a supporter, you guys want to help Daniel out, just share it with one friend, and that helps him, grow exponentially over time.
Awesome, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate, your dedication to this industry and to podcasting and putting out good information, and looking forward to just more of it. Once again, really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of The Weight Room. Hope you enjoyed it. Definitely give the podcast a listen. And when I say the podcast, I mean both podcasts. I'm talking about The Weight Room. I'm talking about Plus Ultra Fitness Podcast. You can find it so many different places. You can find it on Apple. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it, it was in the episode. Just go back and listen if you already forgot. But Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, I'm out.